Hi guys, this is Mrs. Fanton. I'm going to take you through something that can be really hard for students. It's MLA documentation tutorial. So I'm going to take you through how to cite your work. So I know this can be a little dry, so here's what I promise. I promise I will make it quick and easy, and at the end there will be something that I promise will make life so much easier for you. So stick with me till the end. Here we go. So what are we going to go over? When and how to cite text through MLA, how to create a works cited page, citing a variety of sources, whether it's print, electronic, or media, and what to do if you come across something unusual that I don't talk about in this video. So what's MLA? There's this giant association called Modern Language Association, and they put together a way for students and researchers to use the exact same format when citing their work, so that whether it's me helping you at Primavera, whether it's a teacher in New York working with her high school students, or a college professor over in Alaska working with undergraduate students. Everybody's using the same format to cite their work, so we all know exactly what that crazy mess of a line means. So why should I cite? Well, citing your work is extremely important. It helps people know that you're not trying to plagiarize. So if you take someone else's idea from research and use it and you don't cite it, we think that you're trying to steal that information and that you're lying. And that is a horrible thing to be accused of. So what you got to do is cite your work and prove to everyone that you are just using their work to back up what you're trying to prove. It's really, really important that you do that and that you use other people's work so that we know it's not just your opinion as well. So we do want you to use other people's ideas and research and information, but we want you to give them credit. So this is how you give them credit. So when you use other people's work, we really, really prefer that you summarize or reword what you say and then cite their work. However, sometimes it's necessary to use exactly what they say and put it in quotation marks or quote what they say. And that's okay too. Again, no matter what, whether you summarize it, put it in your own words, or you quote it, you have to give them credit right there in the middle of your paragraph as soon as you're done saying what you got from that other person. And then you'll put it again at the end. If you're using another person's idea, you must also cite your source. All right, so summary, give a summary, paraphrase, or a quote. And again, a summary is just like a brief caption of the main idea of your source. Paraphrasing is restating the whole thing kind of in your own words. And a quote is saying the exact same thing and putting quotes around it. So we know that that little brief piece of information is exactly the same. So here you can see an example. This first one right here, a noted scientist states, and it has exactly word for word what you would find on page 11 of Silver's book. Over here, there's no quotes in the second one. So you can infer or guess from this that the author of this paper rewrote this section and kind of summarized it or paraphrased it in their own words. And again, it came from Silver, page 11. So how do I sort or how do I cite? There's two parts to citing according to MLA. There's what you write inside your paper in the body of your paper. And then there's again the list of all the citations at the end, which is your works cited page. So whatever you have on your works cited page, so you should have like, say the requirements were to have 5 sources. So you should have 5 different sources on your works cited page. If I were to go through the body of your paper, I should have each of those sources from your works cited page at least one time within your paper. So your in-text citation There should be at least 5 of them representing each of the things on your works cited page. Now, if you talk about, say you used a source from the New York Times or an article from the New York Times, so it's in your works cited page. Well, maybe you talked about it in paragraph 1, and then you talked about that article again in your conclusion in paragraph 5. So you cited it twice. That's perfectly acceptable. You can cite the same thing over and over and over again if you want. You only have to put it one time on your works cited page, but you need to put an in-text citation every time you use information from that article. So MLA provides these guidelines for citing sources. References in the text must clearly point to specific sources in the list of works cited. And then the works cited, you must identify the location of the borrowed information as specifically as possible. So in text citations, you must provide information that will allow the reader to locate exactly where you found the information in your source. So usually this is the author's last name and a page number. So for example, you could see here that you could find this information from page 188 of Polar's book. You're going to place the parenthetical reference at the end of the sentence and before the punctuation mark. So you can see here, page 188 from Polar. This information came from this book and this page of the book, and then the period is at the end. So there's no period here. You put it at the end. And we know that this information was restated or rephrased. It's not exactly the same because there's no quotation marks. So if you use an author's name in a sentence known as a signal phrase, do not use it again in the parenthetical citation. Just give the page numbers. So instead, if I say Polar, who's the author, argues that global warming will help heat our jacuzzis, and then I just put the page number 122. I only put the page number because I already said the author right here. If we don't know who the author is, then we say the title of the book. Sorry about that. Then we say the title of the book in the page number. There's other things that are weird. What if we cite a whole bunch of information or information that came from a couple different pages? So say the information came from page 123 all the way to page 125, and I just kind of summarized it into a couple sentences. That's totally fine. So you could see again, I used Smith. I used his name right here, so I only had to put the page number. If I wouldn't have done that, this would have said Smith 123-25. What about when you're citing two locations? What if the information comes from one part of the book and from another? You could say 136 to 39, comma 145. What if it comes from two different pieces of information? Then you do it the normal way. Author's last name, page number, then semicolon, author's last name, page number. When you cite more than one work by the same author in your paper, indicate which work in your parenthetical citation. So, for example, this is really rare, and I wouldn't worry about this, but I'm going to tell you it anyway. If you have two books by Smith, then you're going to have to still give the title and then the page number. But that's a rare situation, so I wouldn't stress yourself about that. If you're using an electronic or online source, there aren't page numbers, so you just have to put the author's name. If you don't have an author's name, because sometimes websites don't give authors' names, you just give the title of the article. The works cited page, it appears at the end of your paper on its own page. That's important, it gets its own page. Everything you referenced in the text must be listed in your works cited page. So everything you list in the works cited page must be somewhere in your essay. So again, they have to be in both places. The works cited page provides the information for the reader to find and retrieve the source in your paper. So up above it said Smith 122. Well, I have there's a bazillion books by a guy named Smith. So down below in the Works Cited page, once I get to that page, I can see exactly what book and I can go find that page, and now I know where to find that information and look on page 122. Here's an example of a Works Cited page. Be sure that each citation has a format or is following the format that it's supposed to, and that they all have a period at the end. See the period at the end. Works Cited should be centered, and it begins with a C, not an S. These are also listed in alphabetical order. So you can see here in ABC order. All right, and the whole thing is double spaced. Most of them will include the author, the title, the publication, and the format descriptor. Okay, usually this stuff can be found on the title page. Book titles are usually italicized. All of this stuff, there's a lot of information here. There's always cheat sheets to know all of this info, but I'm just kind of going over it with you right now. Here's some examples. When there's one author, see the book title is italicized. When there's two or more authors, you can see that they just put an and between. When there's editors as authors, they put EDS at the end. When there's corporate authors, it gets kind of crazy. Two or more sources by the same author. Periodical articles, what should be included. All right, I'm going to show you something that'll help you with all of this because this is a lot of information. All right, let me show you my little cheat sheet. Are you ready? What you're going to do is you're going to go to citationmachine.net. Okay, citationmachine.net. Then you're going to click on MLA because that's the format we use. Now, you're going to love this, you guys. Now, say there's a book that you use. Say you use the book called The Dragon Tattoo, or The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So you type it in here, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. All right, it's going to search for that book. Oh, it found it. Here we go. So I'm going to select it. It's going to tell me that it found all kinds of information about it. Okay, whatever. I'm going to skip to the final step. Now, do I want to cite the whole book? Yeah, I think I do. I'm going to create the citation. And look, just like that, it made the citation for me. Look, the title is italicized and everything. So you click on copy and paste, go back over here, paste it, and voila, it's all ready for me. Now I'm going to have to make sure that the font and the color and everything's the same as the rest of my paper, but that's easy. Another thing it did for me, if we go back here, is it'll do the parenthetical citation for me. This is what I want the inside to look like, right? So this is written by two people, which can be confusing. And I want to talk about page 12. I'm kind of going to reference something that happened there. I'm going to copy and paste it. And then in my paper, anywhere that I talk about page 12, I just paste. Oops, I didn't copy that right, did I? There it is. Copy. And then I can paste it right there in my paper. Remember the period at the end. Okay. Now, if for some reason now I want to talk about page 24, look at it changes it right there for me. So I'm all set. Isn't that cool? Now, let's say I'm writing a research paper. Let's say I'm doing it on autism and I want to use this website from the Mayo Clinic. So I'm reading about it. I'm writing about the diagnoses. How do they diagnose autism? All right, I'm going to copy the link. I'm going to go back to Citation Machine, back to the website. I'm going to paste the link right there. search. Yep, that looks like the right page, so I'm going to select it. Going down to the final step. Go down here, create citation, and look, this is what I want to put right here in my works cited. In my paper, when I'm going to talk about the, whenever I talk about the paper, I'm just going to put this right here, what it tells me, right there. Okay, so Citation Machine is amazing. It will do all that stuff that I was explaining before for you. You just have to remember, whatever you put in your works cited, you need to have some information earlier in your paper where you cited that source as well. So your source has to be twice. It has to be this way for your works cited, and it has to be somewhere in your paper this way as well. Okay? Has to be both ways in your paper. All right, hopefully that really helped you. And now you're going to do a little practice, and you're probably going to want to keep, or you're going to want to pull up citationmachine.net for yourself.